12 waiver wire pickups that you need before week 7. I'm Tom Strachan from Fantasy Pros. You know my written work, so let's get into it right now. 10 minutes, let's get through them all. Jaxson Dart, 32% rostered. Look, we've been talking about him for 3 weeks now, and he's had 3 games in a row over 50 rushing yards. To put that into context, Josh Allen's at 46 per game. Justin Fields is at 42 per game, and Dart is averaging over 20 fantasy points per game. Now, yes, he's got the Broncos up next, who've been a very tough defense all season. And yes, they've been excellent against rushing quarterbacks. They only allowed Justin Fields to have 31 rushing yards, and he's the only quarterback who's gone over 10 rushing yards against them. But there will be easier games ahead. And let's not forget what Jaxson Dart just did to the Philadelphia Eagles in primetime. I have enough faith in Jaxson Dart's rushing floor that he's going to figure it out. And look, the bye weeks come in, they're going to be brutal, and we will need quarterbacks who can give us a safe floor. 11 more to go. Look, we've got some people rostered as low as 1%, so do make sure you stick around. Let's move on. Joe Flacco, 8% rostered. Look, I didn't expect Joe Flacco to look good against the Packers, and I'm certainly not sure whether he did look good or not. He completed 29 of 45 passes for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. But what we can count on with Joe Flacco is that he's going to keep pushing the ball out on time and to his best playmakers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, particularly with Mike Gesicki getting injured. Now, next, we've got the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. The Steelers, they've been poor against the pass this year. The Steelers' defense isn't what it used to be. Heading into week 6, they'd allowed the 4th most quarterback fantasy points, the 7th most to wide receivers, and the 4th most to tight ends. So they're a defense which has given up plenty of fantasy points to opponents already, and we need to be able to capitalize on that. They ranked 23rd against the pass in EPA per dropback. And look, after this, they get the mini bye, more time for Joe Flacco to get comfortable with this offense, and then they play the Jets in week 8, and then the Bears before going back to Pittsburgh after their bye week. I'm not afraid of any of those defenses, and if you need a quarterback to cover for injuries, if you need a quarterback to get you through the bye week, then Joe Flacco is absolutely someone who you should be rostering. We're going to move to running back position in just a second, but first, if this is your first time finding us here at the Fantasy Sanctuary, hit that subscribe button down below. I know that you want to, because we do weekly ranking shows, tiers. Rich does his Dynasty buys and sells. Tyler's pumping out loads of content around Underdog Pick'ems right now. We are here to help you win. So let's get into the running back position. And let's start with Kimani Vidal. And I'll give you a mea culpa on this one. I was wrong. 31% rostered Kimani Vidal, so you should be able to go and get him. And I will be willing to go and get him. Let's say I was wrong about him. I thought the Chargers were going to lean into Hassan Haskins, who had all the history with Jim Harbaugh dating back to college. I thought that Kimani Vidal wasn't going to get the opportunities. After all, this was a guy that they cut this offseason and brought back to the practice squad. Instead, Vidal got hot. He had a 63% snap rate, 51% route rate. He had 18 of the 24 running back rush attempts for the team. And in the red zone, he was used plenty down there. He had 6 of the 7 rush attempts for the running backs in the red zone. He also had 2 red zone receptions. Turned it into 21 touches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, look, if you can't accept when you're wrong when a guy does that, when can you accept you were wrong? The Chargers reportedly are in the market for another running back to bring in, and it makes sense. Look, I thought what Vidal did yesterday was impressive, but it probably doesn't preclude them from going out and getting somebody else more long-term. But it's week 7, man. We need guys who can give us immediate help. And Vidal, right now, he's worth at least adding to your roster, but just don't go crazy with your waiver bids. Are you looking deeper, need somebody a little less rostered than that? Well, Bam Knight, 12% rostered on Yahoo Leagues right now. He led the Cardinals backfield with 37 snaps played against the Colts. Michael Carter was at 32. Carter was out there still plenty, but it was Bam Knight, and the reports yesterday suggested it was going to be Bam Knight. They wanted Bam Knight in earlier, and that's what they did. Now, Bam Knight has a tough matchup in week 7 against the Packers. We've seen their run defense be excellent all season. But then this is the crux of this play. After their bye week, in week 9, Bam Knight and the Cardinals play the Cowboys, and we just saw what Rico Dowdle did to them. The Cowboys' run defense is just awful. It is incredibly bad, and I absolutely think that Bam Knight is worth stashing for a couple of weeks just for that matchup alone. Kendre Miller, 34%. Look, a week ago we were talking about Kendre Miller. 2 weeks ago we were talking about Kendre Miller, and we've still got to talk about Kendre Miller. 1 week after getting out-touched by Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara comes back from the grave and all of a sudden out-touches Miller. I think it was 15 touches to Kamara to 9 for Kendre Miller. And yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. But there are going to be games where it swings back in Kendre Miller's favor. We've seen enough from this Kellen Moore offense this year that they want to use the backs when they can. And when they do, they are going to split it at times. And once again, the bye weeks are here. They are going to get really difficult over the next few weeks. And we want guys who have standalone value. Guess what? Kendre Miller, week 7, plays the Bears, who absolutely stink against the run. So I very much want to roster him for that week 7 matchup at a bare minimum. I get that it's not the sexiest play out there, but before week 6, Kendre Miller ranked 8th in percentage of runs to go for 10 plus yards. There's a good running back there, and we just need him to carry on getting more touches. We got a few more running backs to go, and then we're going to get to wide receiver and finish out with tight ends, including a player who is just 1% rostered. Tyler Allgeier, 34% rostered. I mean, you guys have got to be sick of me talking about Tyler Allgeier. I've talked about Tyler Allgeier all off season. I've talked about him in every single video we've done. And he's still only 34% rostered. This is a guy who's had 2 games with 16 carries this year. He's had 2 games with touchdowns. And now he's coming off his bye week. I'm recording this before the Monday night games. Perhaps he has a stinker against Buffalo. Perhaps he has a great game. I don't know. But in week 8, the Falcons play Miami, and Miami can't stop the run whatsoever. Tyler Allgeier has standalone value. He has the huge contingent value for if anything happened to Bijan Robinson. Tyler Allgeier is a must roster player. Last running back before we get to wide receivers, it is Kyle Monangi, 6% rostered. So I don't want to hear any of this. Oh, he's not available in my league. Look, 6% rostered on Yahoo leagues. What more can I do here? Now, Monangi had 23 touches in the Bears' last 3 games. He's rushed for over 4 yards per carry in 2 of those. Now, DeAndre Swift has a single game above 4 yards per carry this year. He's been held below 2.75 yards per carry in each of the last 2 games. Coming off their bye week, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Johnson is trying to inject a little more life into this and put a little more on Kyle Monangi. Kyle Monangi was their guy, remember. This isn't like Roshan Johnson, who was left over from the previous regime. Can't get a touch whatsoever. Kyle Monangi is miles ahead of him. Even DeAndre Swift is somebody who, you know, Ben Johnson and him, they had a difficult relationship from their time together in Detroit. So I'm not expecting that to necessarily play out well for the rest of the season. The Bears, they've got an absolute cupcake schedule ahead. The Commanders, Saints, Ravens, Bengals, Giants. Now, 4 of those 5 teams land in the top 12 in fantasy points allowed to the running back position. Kyle Monangi, 6% rostered. Make him one of your priority moves this week on waivers. Right, we are going to wide receiver in just a moment, but first, you have to hear this offer from Underdog. Right now, if you sign up and use promo code Sanctuary, play $5, they're going to give you $100 in bonus funds, the perfect top-up you need to get involved in Week 7 action. Sterling Shepard, 5% rostered. This one, it hurts. Emeka Egbuka is going to miss time. Mike Evans is out. Chris Godwin, definitely not in contention for Week 7, according to the coach. Bucky Irving isn't either. There are pass-heavy scripts coming their way. Cameron Johnson did play slightly more than Sterling Shepard in Week 6, but look, I'm leaning in the relationship between Baker and Sterling Shepard. The entire reason why Sterling Shepard is in Tampa is because him and Baker have played together a number of times over the years. They play Detroit next week, which could be a very pass-heavy shootout. And then they play the Saints, who've been pretty rotten on defense. So Sterling Shepard could absolutely become the release valve for Baker Mayfield, the person who he goes to with high volume. Jordan Whittington, 0% rostered according to Yahoo leagues. So if you have Jordan Whittington rostered already, I bow down to you. I mean, what more can I do? I'm bringing you a guy who is supposed to be rostered in no leagues on Yahoo. Of course, it'll be slightly higher than 0, but not even 1%. The Rams, they said that he could be a Puka Nacua replacement last year in case Puka got injured. And look, Puka's injured, most likely going to miss the trip to London. Not at all devastated, but I have tickets to go to that game, and he's not going to be there. But it makes sense because the Rams have their bye week after that game. And we saw it yesterday once Nacua went out. I mean, Whittington led the team in snap share this week at 92%. He's been at 54% or higher every week. We know how condensed this offense usually is. It's Puka Nacua, it's Devontae Adams, and very little else when it comes to the passing game. If there's no Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford is going to be forced to put the ball elsewhere. And the player who's been on the field most, it is Whittington. Jalen Coker, 12%, coming off IR this week, plays the Jets. And look, the Jets, they've just frankly given up on their season already. They'll be coming back from London, where they just got embarrassed. They couldn't do anything on offense. Their defense played okay, but they are not a defense that we need to worry about. The Panthers, they were willing to trade Adam Thielen because of how confident they felt in Jalen Coker taking a second-year jump, only for him to get that unfortunate injury just after they traded Thielen. You go back to last year, Coker had 4 games in 2024 with a target share over 17%, had the 12th highest catch rate on passes 15 plus yards downfield among wide receivers with 10 plus targets, had a better yards per route run than Xavier Legette, separated better, turned production and targets into production at a better rate. Like Coker, he can easily be the wide receiver 2 in this offense from the day he steps on the field. One last wide receiver before we get to tight end is Kendrick Bourne at 35% rostered. Jerron Jennings playing at less than 100%. He's got multiple broken ribs. Ricky Pearsall has been banged up for so much of the last couple of years now. Brandon Ayuk is nowhere near to getting back on the field. And Kendrick Bourne, he's just been a reliable wide receiver 1 for the 49ers now. He had 10 for 142 in his first game, and then he had 5 for 142 against the Bucs. He is playing excellent. It seems clear that Mac Jones trusts him, and I think that we're going to see Kendrick Bourne have a really good run out for a long time. 2 tight ends for you this week. Let's start with Cade Otton, 12%. If you don't like the Sterling Shepard call, then how about Cade Otton? Cade Otton has been around the Bucs for a long time. Him and Baker Mayfield seem to have good chemistry when they do turn it on. He played 100% of the snaps in week 6. He was the only non-quarterback to play 100% of the offensive snaps. Like, there is so little option for the Bucs right now. And he led the team in target share at 26%. He was over 15% in week 5 when Godwin was also out injured. I don't think that Cade Otton is somebody you want for the rest of the season, but whilst the injuries are there with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka, I do think that Cade Otton is going to earn himself a decent target share and be fantasy viable every week. Oronde Gadsden, 1% rostered, second on the team in snap share, 76% this week. No other tight end on the Chargers was over 42%. What we were worried about with Gadsden was that there were too many tight ends, and it was going to be one of these kind of Greg Roman offenses where all the different tight ends muddled in and muddled out. But he was second in target share at 21%, behind Lad McConkey, but ahead of Keenan Allen. He's had 19 targets over his last 4 games. Everything has trended up, and I really think that between Harbaugh, between Greg Roman, these are 2 coaches who know how to get the best out of the tight ends to most of his potential. And Gadsden, for his part, yes, he's not a good pass blocker or anything like that, but he's an excellent pass catcher, and he's really showing it, and he's a really exciting player. And at 1% rostered, that feels like it's worth the gamble. Those are your week 7 waivers. Remember, promo code Sanctuary gets you $100 on Underdog Fantasy when you bet just $5. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out of here.